All right, let's go. Today we are talking about 10 must-ask questions blocking your real estate success.
Yes, so taking your real estate career to the next level requires reflection, accountability, and of course, action. These 10 questions are designed to help you identify what might be holding you back. It'll help you clarify your goals and build the momentum you need to achieve success. Use these questions as a guide to uncover your potential and create a plan for growth. Ready to get started with number one?
Yes, we are. In this first number one, Julie's going to read you the point. She's going to read you a quote, and then we're going to find ourselves sitting on the beach.
There you go. Question number one, what are you most proud of? Picture yourself sitting on the beach at the end of the year. What 3 accomplishments fill you with the most pride? Here is the Jim Rohn quote about this. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment.
All right, so here's the mindset. You have flown down to Puerto Rico. You're sitting on the beach with us here in Dorado, Puerto Rico. I'm looking out the window of our second story and I'm seeing part of the beach. So we're sitting out on the beach. We might even be having some limoncellos, depending on if it's the right time of day.
That's right.
Okay? And I ask you this question. In the last 12 months, what are the 3 things that you're most proud of having accomplished? And they will be specific. I'll ask for specific drilled down things, not just amoebas things. Oh, I worked on my mindset. That doesn't count. I read more books. Okay, that's good, but that doesn't really count either. We want specific drilled down things that are actual goals. And that's what we're going to be focusing you on, because I'm asking you the question now, dear listener. We're on the beach and we are, chilling. And I ask you, what are the 3 things you're most proud of having accomplished in the last 12 months? What are your answers? Don't be surprised if you don't have any real drill down answers. Did you save a certain amount of money? Did you, master becoming a listing agent? You've learned how to take and keep at a consistent listing numbers, like 10 listings at all times. Did you save a certain amount of money? Did you lose a certain amount of weight? Did you finally walk up the Eiffel Tower? In the last 12 months, what are the 3 things you're most proud of? Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you the next question. In the next 12 months, you're still sitting beside me. In the next 12 months, when you're sitting here again at the start of 2026, and I ask you the same question, what will your answer be?
And which leads us to question number 2.
And that leads us to question number 2, which is really, at the end of the day, the whole point. If you're not feeling like you're progressing in your business and personal life, it's because you're not giving yourself meaningful goals to chase. Everybody talks about goals, but how many of you have set goals, a month ago and you're about to forget about them in another month? Statistically, most people who set goals stop pursuing them by the end of February, and when they start them at the start of the new year. And why is that? Because they don't have an action plan. So get ready to be thinking bigger about what your goals are, and we're going to help you create action plans.
All right, so question number 2. And did we tell them how to get the notes? Because we do have 10 questions here.
That's true. We're not going to go over all of our notes because there are a ton of notes, and we only have you guys for about a half hour every day. So make sure you subscribe to our newsletter, harrisrealestatedaily.com. And on this particular set of notes, there's a little fill in the blank at the bottom where you're actually going to be writing some things down. So make sure you grab these notes. harrisrealestatedaily.com is our free daily subscriber-only newsletter, and it's the only place where our notes are going to live. You get not only the notes from that day's show, but you get a video of the podcast, and you also get a lot of exclusive content. I'm getting a lot of praise, and thank you very much for that, for the white paper that me and ChatGPT wrote pertaining to all the new changes about prospecting, cold calling, about any kind of really calling and picking up the phone or SMSing and all this. All these changes which are taking place now and are going to be put into action within the next 12 months or less. You need to be aware of those things right now so you can be in compliance. So the white paper is waiting for you. It is free for all of our subscribers, harrisrealestatedaily.com. And remember, when you do subscribe, which you should be doing right now, and you can click the link below in the show description or just go to harrisrealestatedaily.com, you do have to pop over to your email and you do have to double opt in. You have to confirm that you want the subscription. So make sure you do that.
All right. So question number 2, what are your goals in life's 5 most important areas? What are those 5 areas? Those are family, financial, physical, mental or spiritual, and educational. Those are the 5 most important areas. Now, as you were using your beach example, it's not enough to just say, well, I'm proud of losing weight, or this next year I'm gonna lose weight. I'm gonna get in control of that. I'm going to have better nutrition. Well, it has to be specific. So write down the word or use the notes, the word SMART. That stands for the fact that your goals have to be specific, In our weight example, how much weight? Measurable, how many pounds? Attainable, realistic, and timely. And we also say to post them where you're going to see those daily. So that gets you to drill down and not have these nebulous goals like, I want to have a better family relationship. Well, how about you want to talk to your parents every Friday afternoon at 4, week in and week out? A lot of my coaching clients, especially with little kids, their goal, and when we do this in coaching, their family goal is to have at least one sit-down meal with the entire family. Even if they have teenagers doing things, they're going to have a Thursday or Friday evening together where they just break bread together.
All right, let's talk about balance. There is no such thing in life as balance. So stop trying to pursue balance when it comes to the 5 areas of life when you're setting goals, because what that will do is force you to be out of balance. And I know some of you, I just basically have offended you, and I apologize, but I want you just to have an open mind to what I'm trying to say. At different points in your life, you will find that different things are more important than others. So hopefully, as you progress in your career, you're going to have achieved a level of financial security, and the financial building of your business will now not necessarily be the most important thing, because you'll now be wanting to focus on, say, for example, your family, or you'll be wanting to focus on spirituality. Point being, do not try to have perfect balance of everything in your life. Otherwise, you'll be out of balance, and be okay. You'll be out of balance emotionally and burn yourself out. Be okay knowing and accepting that if you're going to be working for the next 12 or 24 months or whatever, building your business, chances are other things are going to be out of balance as well. So if you ever see a really, really physically fit person and, at really incredible shape, chances are that person is not spending a lot of time on some of the other things that maybe you are. They're not spending a lot of time on education, maybe. They're not spending a lot of time on finances, maybe. They're spending a lot of time on physical. If you see somebody that's maybe really financially well off, but obviously they're not physically in good shape, well, they've been putting all their emphasis on their building of their wealth and building of their business. Well, maybe now it's time in this new year for them to continue with the business aspects of it now they built some momentum in that category, but go back and make sure that they pick up where they left off in terms of taking after their health. Again, the point is don't be one of these people who think that you have to have perfect balance in all areas of your life, because that won't just cause imbalance. It'll actually cause you not to accomplish anything, because you're always going to feel like a failure.
That's very well said, because there is an ebb and flow to it. Your goals are supposed to change. As you achieve them, you replace them, and, things change in your life. So point number 3, or question number 3, speaking of goals, are you playing it safe with your goals? What would you change about your goals if failure wasn't a factor, or the potential of failure wasn't a factor? Stretch goals may require more work, but they also yield better results. Here's a quote from Vincent van Gogh. He said, "What would life be if we didn't have any courage to even attempt anything?" And you often use, Tim, the analogy of shooting the arrow down the field at the target when we're talking about, maybe shooting higher for your goals.
You have to aim above the target in order to hit on target. But actually, I had a better story I wanted to share.
Sure.
So I'm on a call with a small brokerage for eXp Realty, and they're thinking about moving over to eXp Realty. And yes, Julie and I are with eXp Realty. It's one of the, frankly, best business decisions we ever made. We moved to eXp Realty in 2019, and now our group is, 3,500 or something like that. We have agents all over the country. Really a fantastic organization all the way around. So I'm on this call with this gal, and she's thinking about moving her brokerage. It was less than 20 people over. And she's great. She was awesome. But she said something just flippantly in between other things about her future. And if I remember correctly, she wasn't even 60 years old, but she started talking about the fact that she wasn't in essence, she was saying that she's not too worried about her financial future because she doesn't think she's going to live long enough. And she started saying things like this, Yikes. But she was saying it while laughing. And her husband was sitting right next to her. On her right, I remember very clearly, it was just a Zoom. And he was listening to her say this, and she said something like it 2 or 3 times, like what I just described. And every time he looked over at her and she just kept on talking, she wasn't paying attention. And, I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, is this lady sick? Does she have an illness? Is there something I don't know about? Does she even know she talks like that, let alone thinks like that? And so, me being me, I asked her, I said, are you okay health-wise? And she said, oh yeah, I'm great. And I said, well, do you realize you just basically said 3 times in a row that you don't really expect to live much longer? Those were almost her exact words. And then she didn't know she said it, and she didn't say anything. And I said, let me ask you a question. I said, if you knew for a fact that you're going to have massive financial security for the rest of your life, if you were going to basically not have to worry about money, that you could essentially go on all those trips that maybe you haven't gone on. You could start thinking, about life in terms of abundance opposed to in terms of scarcity, like time scarcity, like in her particular case, how much longer she has to live. In other words, your life and your best years are still ahead of you, and money's no longer a thing. I said, what does that do to your perspective in general? What's going to change? And then immediately she answered the question, well, I'll definitely want to, go here, do this, have this experience. She even said she'd want to lose some weight. She'd change her diet. I mean, she didn't even have to think about it. I love this lady, obviously. She was instantly introspective. So she was very connected to her. Like that inner self that wanted her to have more with her life wasn't completely complacent or checked out. And I thought that was very fascinating because one of the best aspects of eXp Realty, one of the reasons that millions of agents have joined basically is because, thousands, let's say, is because of revenue share. So you can earn passive income at eXp that's above and beyond the money you make from actually selling real estate. I explained all that to her in a great deal of depth. And then I asked her, so what would it take for you to have enough financial abundance that what's the actual dollar amount, and let's set a goal for you to have money coming from revenue share that you no longer had to worry about paying your personal bills. You had enough money coming in, and it was less than 20 grand. And then on that call, I created a plan for her, how I could help her and our group could help her build a revenue share group that would be paying her enough revenue share every month that she would, in essence, no longer have to think about money. And let me tell you, at that very moment, I could feel, and everyone else on that Zoom could feel, an amazing shift that happened, almost a spiritual. I don't want to go as far as to say that, but that's what it felt like to me, because her facial expression changed. Her and her husband started to laugh. They started to relax. But what was happening was she was now realizing that the best years of her life were still ahead of her. And I just wanted to share that with you guys, because a whole bunch of reasons, but mostly because, frankly, that last point with regards to goals, a lot of the goals that you're going to be setting in the different areas of your life, you might be holding yourself back, which was Julie's point. Are you thinking big enough? Because of some of these preconceived notions you have about your potential that are related to money. And I get it. Trust me, I understand completely. So I encourage all of you, if you are not yet already at eXp Realty and you want to make the next natural step in your real estate career, you can go two paths. In the link below, you can click the link and learn more about our eXp Realty group. Or if you're ready to join eXp Realty and you're looking for a sponsor that's going to be very proactive in your success, we personally invite the opportunity to earn the right to be your eXp Realty sponsors. So if you're ready to join, whether you're a brokerage, an individual agent, and you're looking for a very proactive sponsor, clearly Julie and I would love the opportunity. Text me directly on my cell phone. Don't call, text 512-758-0206. 512-758-0206. We recognize and appreciate that you have massive potential. We know that deep inside of you, you have something that you still want to express, experiences you still want to have. You just don't know quite how to do it. Let's have that conversation and let's see if it's a good fit for you. Whether you're a new agent, an experienced agent selling, multi-million-dollar estates, or you're selling first-time home buyer houses, let's have that conversation. So remember, click the link below to learn more about our eXp Realty group, or just text me directly at 512-758-0206.
Yes, and just a reminder, if you are running a team or a brokerage, small, medium, or large, of course we want to talk to you guys as well. All right, thank you for that example, because, sometimes we have to get off of our own thought hamster wheels.
Honestly, that call was very emotional for me because, you and I are at the age where we see a lot of people that are giving up, and they don't just wave the white flag, but you can tell on how they express themselves.
The words they use, their demeanor.
Physically, frankly,
yes.
How they look.
Yes.
I mean, how they dress.
It's true.
How they take care of themselves. And they don't do it consciously. There's not like a day they woke up, well, I guess I'm, 55 or whatever, time to throw in the towel. But what happens is they slip into these old behavior patterns that maybe they saw their friends do, their family does, maybe they saw their parents sort of like all of a sudden become instantly old at a certain age, and all these things. And then they start giving up on dreaming. They literally
But they don't realize it until, you ask some of these tough questions sometimes.
And they hide from it. And then, but the real next issue is, okay, if I do want to have those experiences, or I do want to buy that boat, or I do want to have that lake house or these other things, How am I going to do it? And then they're saying, well, shit, I just don't want to have to be laden down with having to sell more real estate. I need to figure out different ways to create more passive income. Those are the conversations that are very emotional when they get it. I love those, honestly.
I know. And I've seen when you were talking about you can literally, like on those Zoom calls, because I've seen you on some of those calls and just, been a fly on the wall. You can see and you can hear. It's almost like a gray cloud has been lifted.
They go from being skeptics to basically going to be the converted, because what they've done is they now understand what the whole point of, EXP is a real estate broker, but EXP has got the revenue share thing. And if EXP didn't have revenue share, it would just be another real estate broker, honestly. The tech stack and all the other things are similar. But it's got this weird, amazing thing. The seventh wonder of the world is what we call it. That's only available to people with real estate licenses, called revenue share. And once people allow themselves to get past the resistance to believing that they can benefit from it, a completely different person emerges.
Yes, transformations for
It is.
sure.
It's awesome. I love being part of it.
I know. Me too. I'm glad you shared that with them. Well, question number 4, are you willing to be consciously incompetent? Now, to grow, you have to embrace the 4 stages of mastery. And because the wording is what it is, I want to make sure that you guys use the notes, but I'll walk you through it. What does it mean to be consciously incompetent? Well, we talked about the 4 stages of mastery. The first one is called unconscious incompetence. That is when you don't know what you don't know. The second one, as you get into further stages of mastery, you then kind of wake up and you understand you have conscious incompetence. Now you know, hey, there's a whole bunch of stuff I didn't know, I haven't considered, there's skills I need to develop. Then, after you've worked on that for a while, you move into conscious competence. Now you're getting your act together. Your business is becoming more predictable, more duplicatable. If you're talking about a workout, now you're doing the exercise without injuring yourself. You're doing more reps. You have conscious competence on the skill that you're working on. And that leads you to unconscious competence, where you're basically on autopilot. So admitting what you don't know is the first step towards progress. Well, that's why we said, are you willing to be consciously incompetent? That's that second stage. Great coaching guides you through these stages. And you do different things at different stages. Some of you have a lot of unconscious competence, say, working with buyers, but when you have to compete on a listing, now you're suddenly really conscious of your incompetence because you've never had to do it before, or maybe you lost something before and you lost your confidence.
That's the problem, is when they come to us after they've lost.
Yeah.
And we see this a lot, especially this time of year. You've lost the listing to your center of influence and past client. Your mom listed their house with somebody else, right? Some of you are so stubborn, you have to lose more than once before you actually realize that you are indeed incompetent and you need to learn the skill set necessary. And then it all clicks and you go to the next level. But acknowledging where you are is really critical.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean you're universally incompetent. You're just incompetent for now at certain skills until you work on them. All right, number 5, related perhaps, are you avoiding the hard work?
Well, they don't, Julie, I read your points on this one. But the truth is they don't realize what the real work of real estate is. Because a lot of them have never been told the truth about what the real work of real estate is. When you listen to any other, I mean, I don't like to sound like this, but it is, I don't feel like parsing my words, frankly. Sure. When you listen to 99.9% of the other people that claim to be real estate coaches and trainers out there, they're going to tell you the work is doing the stuff that we don't consider work. In other words, let's just focus on lead generation to make this point. There's proactive lead generation. There's passive lead generation. Passive lead generation, chances are it's everything that you're doing with your time that you consider work. And I'll make this point by you answering an honest question. Okay, ready? Are you listening, dear listener? Because you already know what I'm about to say is true, but I want you to admit it yourself opposed to just listening to me say it. Okay, here it is. You have to take 5 listings in the next 30 days, and then Julie and I are going to cut you a tax-free, all expenses paid check for $1 million. So not only do you get all the benefit from the listings you took, we're going to pay you $1 million. We're going to call this the $1 million 5 listing challenge. And if, by the way, taking 5 listings is a breeze for you, then it's going to be yours. It's going to be the $1 million 15 listing challenge, right? So in other words, these are the things you have to take a minimum of 5 listings in the next 30 days. Listings, not buyers. Listings, not buyers. Oh, and by the way, the listings can't be with referral fees. So you can't just go and buy the leads. No shortcut, no cheat. So you got to take 5 listings by proactively lead generating, and you have to do it the next 30 days. I want you to tell me how you're going. Sorry, wrong question. I want you to tell me what you're going to stop doing. In other words, you want to put all your best effort every day towards taking those 5 listings in the next 30 days. What are you going to stop doing, dear listener? Tell me. What are you going to stop doing? You already know the answer, don't you? It's all the passive stuff. It's all the videos. It's going to the seminar where they're going to teach you how to do exact lighting and editing for your next, YouTube stream. They're going to all this, building your CRM, working on your drip campaigns, all the stuff that goes under the category of working on, all the speculative stuff that one day, maybe, hopefully, with all the stars aligned, that'll generate some kind of lead, right? You're going to stop doing all the things that you already know aren't going to generate 5 actual signed listing contracts in the next 30 days. So now that we've got that out of the way, and I told you already knew the answer, the next question is going to be, what will you start doing? It's all the shit that you don't want to do. It's all the things you've been avoiding. Remember when you were driving to the Starbucks this morning and you drove past that new pesky neighbor that's got the neighbor that's got that new pesky Fizbo sign in the front yard that you set to ignore when you drive by? Oddly enough, you're already looking the opposite direction as you drive past the sign.
Look the other way. Look the other way.
Exactly, right? Or how about the 5 expireds in your neighborhood or in your community next door that you suspect are there because they're not for sale anymore. You know they didn't sell. They're still waiting to be sold listings. But you know what? You're not calling them because you're too busy being the mayor of your town. You guys following me on all this? Why don't, if you are actually serious about being successful, if you are actually serious about helping people making money, you're going to have to do the real work of real estate, which requires real work, which requires you doing what you don't want to do, and you don't want to do it at the highest level. Are you following, dear listener? You know what I'm saying here is true, don't you? So if you had to take those 5 listings the next 30 days, write down the list of all the things that you would do. And next to the things on that list that you're doing, put a big star. Notice how there's no list and no stars? Because you're not doing the real work of real estate. Because when you got into real estate, everyone was teaching you how to be an influencer. And that the beat of that, everyone in real estate should be an influencer, drum is even growing louder. Because what's happening is enough agents have gone down that road, have validated that it doesn't work, but instead of those coaches and trainers, gurus and whatnot, admitting that they were telling you something that didn't work, they're now telling you that it didn't work because you didn't do enough of it. Have you noticed that, dear listener? The reason your videos aren't working is because you're not doing enough of them. You're not spending enough money on them, doing enough edits on them. You're not making them splash bangy enough. I'm watching all of this happen. Do you think there's a reason that, what was it, Julie, 80%? What was the number? 71%, 74% of all realtors didn't sell a house last year?
74%.
Okay,
Yeah.
do you think that maybe it's because they're spending all their time doing the things that aren't actually going to generate a closed transaction, let alone a listing lead? I do. You should too. So play our hypothetical, by the way, it's not real, competition. We're going to give you $1 million if you take 5 listings in the next 3 days. Make a list of all the things you're going to do. And here's what you're going to discover. You don't know how to do any of them because it requires skill. That's the reason you should join Premier Coaching. Stop screwing around, waiting and procrastinating for leads to show up. Go after them. Stop buying leads and losing. You guys, some of you are spending 40% referral fees on buyer leads. What the hell are you doing? Why are you doing that? Do you realize that one open house, when you follow our open house system, you'll have to beat the buyers off with a stick? You'll have to literally, say the house is full, please come back later, take a number.
Doesn't work that
Do you
way.
realize that if you take one listing, how many buyer leads you're going to get just from that one listing that costs you nothing? You're not going to want buyer leads when you learn how to be a listing agent. You're going to want to refer your buyer leads off to other agents that never have learned how to be listing agents. Expand your thinking. Think bigger. If you're frustrated with the industry and with yourself, as evidently over 70% of you are because you didn't sell anything last year, it's your fault because you're doing the wrong thing in real estate. It's not your fault because maybe up until now you didn't know that, but now you do. So going forward, now that you know the truth, which by the way, you all intuitively knew the truth before I even walked you through that exercise, you now have to take the right actions if you want to actually start making money in real estate and following through on the goals and the ambitions you had when you started, when you got your license in the first place.
Exactly. I mean, some of this is, we call it tough love, right? And guess what, guys? We know this because we've walked in your shoes.
Yes, we have.
We're not just making this stuff up. Right?
Look, Julie and I look for shortcuts too when we sold real estate.
Sure.
And all of our clients do. A lot of them lie about it, but we figure it out. They'll say Bob, tell me about what do you got going on in your business? oh, well, I'm this, that, and the other. And then they'll let it slip that they're doing some paid lead generation thing or some Facebook campaign.
Yeah.
And then you say, oh, so you're doing a Facebook. But okay, here's the truth. This happened. Lance Kenmore. Sorry, Lance.
read
Going to use
my
you an
mind.
example, brother. So Lance him and his team sell 400 to 500 homes per year. So I have Lance on an interview. You guys can find this online. Lance Kenmore, find it. And so Lance's listing inventory is down. And I was asking Lance what he does, and he does a lot of really amazing things for centers of influence and past clients. And he is doing some, marketing. He is buying leads. He's doing all these things. But he said, well, my listing leads are down. To which I then ask him a few questions, 3 questions, matter of fact. I say, well, so let me know what you're doing with your centers of influence and past clients. And he said, well, we're mailing them things. I said, so how many listings should you have right now, according to your coach, Julie Harris, for you to be on track for your goals for this year? I think it was like 12 or 15, something like that.
At the time of the interview, it was. Now it's gone up.
Right. I said, so how many people do you have in your center of influence and past client list? And then he told me the number. And I said, well, how many expireds were there in your marketplace? He told me the number. How many for sale by owners? How many notice of defaults? How many all these things? He told me some numbers. I said, well, how many of those people have you called? He looked away, laughed at himself, and said, none. I said, Lance, just off your centers of influence and past clients, and this guy sold thousands of homes.
Lots of past
I
clients.
guarantee you, if you set everyone in your team down and you picked up the damn phone and used our scripts to start calling all these guys, you will easily pick up 30 listings leads, maybe 40 listing leads. And Julie, I didn't follow up after that because you're his coach. You did. What happened after that?
He is ranging from 38, I think we're going to hit 40 listings this week. The goal is 50. I believe the goal is 50 by February 15th or whatever the date was.
Okay,
So-
that's from calling.
Yes,
That's from being a
proactive. And by the way, he also, and he has fun with this, does a lot of videos, and some of them have tons and tons of views. But the videos do not, I always ask, and anytime, and I think you do too, anytime somebody says, hey, I did this great video, I got so many likes, I got everybody commenting, blah, blah, blah.
Well,
that's great, that's fun.
Sweetie, let's use him as an example.
Yes.
So this came out on the interview too.
Yeah.
He did some TikTok video. They got a crap ton of attention.
Yeah.
And I asked him how many leads he got from it, actual closed transactions, And he said, well, I had a lot of people say they saw it. Okay, awesome.
That's good.
And
Recognition's good.
And he said, I got some leads from it too. I said, well, were these, and I said, tell me about these leads. Watch the interview. You guys will see me interrogating him. I said, asking him questions on a nice, thought-provoking interview. So anyway, I said, so tell me about these leads. And he goes, well, they're my centers of influence and past client list. So you did a TikTok video because you wanted your center of influence people to call you. Couldn't you have just called them and actually generate a lot more leads opposed to worrying about making this video and spending all the time you did to make this video? Make the video, have fun with it. But realize the real work of real estate requires real work. It does require dedication. It does require hours of doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. Hours, a lifetime, decades. That's the truth.
That's why it's called work.
Yeah, it sucks.
It's not called vacation.
It's
called work.
But really, when you accept it and you stop looking for shortcuts, and here's the funny thing about Lance, we started coaching Lance and his wife probably going on 20 years ago.
True.
Okay. And the thing that's really fascinating about them is they built a proactive lead generation business initially. And then they started basically saying, well, we're just going to start buying leads and going to referral sources and doing radio stuff and all the rest of it. And now because those things aren't working as well in his marketplace, he went back to the proactive lead generation. And the next thing I'm sure his coach is going to teach him how to do is maybe we don't do the costly passive lead generation things anymore that evidently stopped working, and we just focus on the proactive lead generation. And guess what's going to happen? Yes, fewer people will recognize him when he's at line at Starbucks, but yes, he'll be taking a lot more commission checks to the bank and developing a lot more net worth. Isn't that the reason you're in the business? Or are you in the business because you want to be famous? Because if you have to choose to be famous or to be rich, what would you choose? That's a real question, dear listener. You have to choose to be famous or to be rich. Which will you choose? The older version of you, the one that 12 months from now, when I'm sitting on the beach with you, I promise you're going to say you wish you would have been chosen to be rich and not be famous. Because the fame ebbs and flows, comes and goes, and it doesn't pay the bills.
Exactly. Very well said. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit to point number 8 because they know how to get the notes.
Yeah, get your notes from Harris Real Estate Daily.
Yes. Okay. Number 8, speaking exactly to your point, do you own both your success and your failures? Are you a blame taker or a blame thrower? Taking ownership of everything that happens in your life is empowering and transformative. So another Jim Rohn quote, he said, you must take personal responsibility. You cannot change the circumstances, the seasons, or the wind, but you can change yourself. That's something that you do have charge of. So do you own your success and your failures? And I'll give you a real estate example we hear all the time. An agent doesn't get a listing and they say, oh, I didn't want it anyway because the seller overpriced it. Or they listed with somebody that was more of their friend. Like they just, there wasn't some other reason that maybe they didn't get it. It's, oh, I didn't want it anyway. That's not owning it.
We're at a real estate event.
Yep.
And we're in front of a group of people. And these are all luxury agents. And one of the agents stood up. Do you remember this one?
Was this the Hawaii deal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he basically said, I did this, I did the other thing. And they listed with somebody else. And he goes, I don't know why I didn't get the listing. And I said this. And the whole audience did not like my answer, but it is the freaking truth. I said, because you didn't earn it. Because the seller believed that the agent that they listed with was more valuable and could do the job better than you. You didn't earn it. You hadn't yet proven or learned how to prove your value to prospective sellers. And until you stay in that mode of not owning it, not realizing that failure is the gateway to success because it's going to give you enough of a punch in the head that hopefully you're going to learn from that punch in the head, and it's going to give you the motivation not to get another punch in the head.
Well, that gets back to conscious competence, right?
Right.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Conscious incompetence.
Right.
You become, and you own the fact that there's stuff that you still need to learn.
But his reason was they must have had a personal connection. They must have cut the commission. They must have told the agent must have told the seller a higher list price. No, those are all crappy excuses that you're giving yourself so you can hide, so you won't feel the pain of failure. Feel the pain of failure. Avoid that pain again. Learn to make it so you don't lose again. That is what Premier Coaching is all about.
That's right. And the problem with today's market is this. Every mistake like that you make, on average, costs you $10,000 to $12,000.
At least.
At least.
In his market, it was over 30.
It was way more. Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, it was like his average sale price was over $1 million.
Yeah. Well, that's an expensive
that's
mistake.
really shocking, don't you think?
Yeah.
Some of our listeners, Julie, have average sale prices of $2-3 million.
Well, I know. Well, it even gets more costly.
When they lose, they're losing six figures in potential commission, and that's assuming they only get one commission for that one transaction.
I know. And to me, it's almost like a different level of I don't know. Maybe incompetence is the word. Maybe it's. I think you owe it to yourself. Consider the fact that a commission like that to somebody with a job took them 40 hours a week, 50 weeks of the year to get there. So I think you have to have respect for that amount of mistake.
This is a personal vice I have personally about the way that people overly protect themselves nowadays from essentially owning all their successes and especially their failures. They'll use, there's all this sort of mindset stuff that's out there that says you're supposed to be more compassionate with yourself, be nicer with yourself. Oh, you know what? Give yourself a break. No, you fail. You got to stop failing. When you have got to accept the fact that you lost. You lost because you weren't good enough. You own that shit. And then you make it so you are. You have to improve your script. You have to improve your approach. You have to improve your, all these things. Don't worry about it. I got to improve my mindset. My mindset's the problem. Your mindset's the problem because you keep on losing because you're focusing all your energies on your mindset. What you got to focus on is your action set, the actions you take. Listen to all of our past podcasts and join Premier Coaching. You've got to really become the best version of yourself as a real estate practitioner. And you have to make it so that when that prospective client meets you, there's zero chance that they're not going to list with you because you look the part, you talk the part, you have the right presentation, you have the right track record. You're not just going to talk about flibberty-gibbety stuff that everyone talks about like all your followers on Instagram. You're actually going to prove to them that you're the agent for them, not, again, by, I'd say, baiting and switching, by actually having earned the right to be the agent that they're going to choose. You guys know what I'm talking about. When you meet people that are the real deal, not tall hat, no cattle types, you know the difference. You can immediately feel the difference. Hey, I'll be a little boastful. When you guys listen to our podcast and then you go listen to something else on YouTube, one of these YouTube coaches, don't you immediately tell a difference? Can't you immediately tell that Julie and I have done hundreds of thousands of coaching calls that we've been doing this business for over 20 years.
That we actually sold real estate for reals.
And we sold thousands of homes. Can't you immediately tell the difference in our, frankly, how we present and the depth in which we can present effortlessly? Because Julie and I, when it comes to this topic, pretty much this topic only, are operating under conscious competence.
Yes,
I
I tell my coaching clients, don't ask me about anything else.
Yeah, nothing.
It's, how to sell real estate at a high level. So a little something about French Bulldogs. I had somebody ask me last week, talk more about Max on the podcast, and hopefully raising a decent human, but it's too soon to tell. That's still underway.
Exactly. It's so funny. It's true. When we get outside, listen to our Friday podcast.
You'll be able to tell.
You'll be able to tell the difference. So when Julie and I are in the Friday podcast and we're talking about things, the show tomorrow, and we're talking about things that we're learning about, you'll hear a lot of stammering. You'll hear a lot of us searching for words.
Looking stuff up.
You'll hear some breaks where you'll hear our fingers on the keyboard firing up the chat GPT because we're consciously incompetent, because we're in learning mode. But when it comes to this stuff, we've been doing it for so long at such a high level. We are fully operational. You can tell the difference, can't you? You've got to get that. And we were that way when we sold real estate too. You've got to get that. You have to get to that level because people can tell the difference. Those are the people that are winning, and you can't fake it. This pisses me off. You guys who are thinking that what's the difference, dear listener, between reputation and influence, right? So a lot of you think that you can shortcut having a really powerful reputation in your community because you have a lot of air quote influence on the socials. You can't. That's another lie that people are believing. Your numbers you can fake influence. You can fake followers on Instagram. You can fake YouTube. You can't fake iTunes downloads, by the way. You can't fake your rankings on iTunes, just for the record. But you can fake all these other platforms. You can, and consumers know it. And agents nowadays think that if they, put this image of themselves of a successful person on all these social media things, that's going to attract people to them. You can pick up first-time buyers. That's true. But any more discerning, educated consumer is going to know the difference, and they're going to always list with somebody that they personally know have done business with before, or a referral from a trusted friend or advisor. Remember, we told you 92% of all consumers choose any service professional based on those two categories, not from marketing and advertising, which is what social media is. Do not be confused about branding. The branding people don't want to be categorized as marketing and advertising, but that's all they are. Branding experts are nothing other than people trying to sell you ads on social media. Don't be confused about that.
Absolutely. It goes back to what people sometimes criticize. Oh, well, you talk a lot about the basics. Well, the basics remain the basics because they've always worked, right? So we've given you 10 questions. Some of these you'll find in your notes. Our closing question is, of course, who's helping you stay on track? Do you have the support and the accountability you need, or do you feel like you're navigating your career alone? Surround yourself with people who inspire and challenge you to grow. It's not unusual for us to have coaching clients come to Premier Coaching and they say, I came to Premier because I don't feel like I'm getting the direction from my broker, team leader, spouse, whatever. And we're sorry. That's, we can't change that, but we can fill in the gaps. We're not your broker, but we can educate you, motivate you, and get you into action. And that's okay if that's your situation. That's what we're here for. Some of you have been in business for a long time, and you hear things on the podcast, you go, you know what, I've got most of that going on. I got that figured out. But oh my gosh, I have never been relentlessly following up on leads. I sit on leads, and that's your aha moment.
The biggest one I hear is they have shitty presentations.
Yes.
They have no pre-listing pack.
They count on their personality too much.
Exactly. They don't pre-qualify. Mm-hmm. But I'll say what we do get a lot of, because we survey not all of our new users, but a lot of them, is we get a lot of people that have been through other air quoting here coaching programs.
Yes, that's true.
Mostly about social media, mostly about branding. Then they come across our podcast and then they realize, is what Tim and Julie have been telling me about, that indeed that explains why it doesn't work. That is insidious, all that stuff, because what happens is somebody with really great potential. I think, frankly, about, all of you. And so you got your real estate license. You got it 5 years ago. You've been doing all the direct mail, all the marketing and branding, all the things that everyone's told you to do, and it's not working. And what happens to your own self-belief? Does it get stronger or weaker? You're now picking up deals, but you're having to buy them. So you're buying leads from these different platforms. All the while, you're spending every damn waking cent you make on marketing and advertising and branding. Oh, it's going to work one day. I'm going to do it. I'm going to convince the world I'm the agent for them. And all the while, you're burning the candle at both ends. That's a lot of what we discover that are joining Premier Coaching. Agents that have gone down the wrong path, that while they still have time, are wanting to make a pivotal change and realize their potential. Because the truth is, guys, there are no shortcuts. Sorry, there aren't. There just aren't. Everybody and their brother wants to tell you there are, because they're trying to sell you into the belief that if you buy their widget, you're all of a sudden going to discover the clouds are going to part and the leads are going to start pouring in your lap. It doesn't work that way in any aspect of life. So stop wasting your energy looking for it. You know what I'm telling you is intuitively true. Why do you struggle with it? Why does 71% of all agents, why didn't they sell a house last year? There were over 4 million resale homes that sold and another like 1.2 million or something new construction homes that sold. That's, 5 million times 2, 10 million transactions. I think it was $340 billion of real estate commissions got earned last year, except for the 71% of the people that are too busy trying to perfect the art and science of making a great TikTok video. You guys get what I'm saying? I'm trying to make you laugh. I'm trying to give you permission to actually make a change, because what really breaks, honestly, I feel really sad for you guys who have learned, who basically are doubting yourselves, doubting your potential, giving up on your dreams because the marketing, the branding, and the advertising, the buying lead stuff isn't working, and now you're blaming yourself. That's what, it honestly is soul crushing, because you had so much amazing potential, but you listened to the wrong thing. You went in the wrong direction, and you kept going in the wrong direction. People have a tendency to do that. They go in the wrong direction and they don't want to admit they're going in the wrong direction, so they stay on that shitty path. And sure enough, it gets worse. And then what happens is they start believing, well, the marketing, the branding, and the advertising stuff, it works, but it just doesn't work for me. I might be too old. I might be too young. I might not be charismatic on video. I might this, that, blah, 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 blah. Oh, even worse, I'm not spending enough money on it. Aren't you guys being told all of that from these marketing and branding gurus? Oh, I'm not using the latest campaign. I need to write better emails. All this stuff. I asked you a question earlier. If you had to take 5 listings in the next 30 days, what would you stop doing? You made your list mentally and emotionally. Now I want you to ask you that question. The secondary question I asked you, what would you start doing? Here's the answer. If you'd yet to put that thought together in your head, you would put yourself in front of as many people in your marketplace right now that have their hands in their air saying, yes, I want to sell my house. Remember, 5 listings, 30 days. Not screwing out with buyers. You're not trying to, figure out a new Facebook campaign. You are going to go in front of as many people that have their hands in the air right now saying, yes, I want to sell my house. And I have a closing homework assignment for all of you. Do this homework only if you're ready to enter into conscious incompetence, the second phase. If you're not, don't do it, because you'll hate me for asking you to do it. I want you to go to your MLS, and I want you to do a search for the number of expired listings in your entire MLS in the last 12 months. Those are yet to be sold listings. And I want you to get ready for your draw to bomb to hit the floor. It's thousands. Those are all sellers. You know what? They have a house for sale. You know it didn't sell. You know what the price isn't. You know they're willing to pay a commission. You know that your number one competitor, which was their previous listing agent who they knew from church or whatever, is probably not going to get the listing again if that seller's given an alternative. But what do? You want to go and make 10 videos so you can become the mayor of your town. Again, trying to make you laugh, but also hoping you realize the insanity of all of that. You're looking for listing leads. Why are you doing the marketing and advertising, Bob? Why are you doing it? Well, I need to have influence so people recognize me as a real estate expert. Okay, that sounds good, Bob. Why are you doing it though? Well, it's because I want people to call when it's time for them to sell when it's time for me to, when they want to list and sell their home or buy a home. Well, Bob, ultimately you're trying to generate listing leads from all your marketing and branding, all this time you're putting into it. Yeah, that's right. Okay, well, why don't you just call the sellers in your marketplace that already have their hands in the air saying, yes, Bob, help me sell my damn house.
Some of them actually have their phone number on the sign, unrepresented sellers, AKA for sale by owners.
I don't get it. I really don't.
Do you know that's 13% of sales?
No, but I do now.
Yeah.
That's batshit crazy.
So just
Hold it,
ignore
is that
them.
true?
It's between 10 and 13%, depending
So
on
we're expected to have like 4.4 million homes this year, and you're telling me like 500,000 are FSBOs?
something like that.
Oh, but there's no listing
One
opportunities.
way or another. I think some pocket listings are listed that way, but it's still a huge amount of.
I've got to go to
it's
HomeLight
ridiculous.
and buy a listing lead for 35%.
Yeah.
Or I've got to go to Zillow and pay 40% for a buyer lead. Why are you doing that? Some of you are buying relocation referral buyer leads, and you're netting less than 15% on those leads. Why are you doing that? because you haven't realized that the real work of real estate is what's going to get you to the real goals. Otherwise, you're just going to be more real estate roadkill. Guys, this is what our message has been, always will be. We're never going to deviate. We're never going to change. We realize that we're only going to appeal to a micro market of you. But guess what? That's our mission. Our job is to be of service to all of you. Your job is to be of service to the other people. So like that person at that event when we were in Hawaii asked me why he didn't get the listing. It's because he hadn't earned the listing. Why aren't you getting listings? Because you haven't earned the right to be that seller's listing agent. Earn the right. It's not hard. Join Premier Coaching.
Yes, and by the way, and I agree 100% everything you said. The other thing that I think that there is like kind of a generation of agents almost who have been licensed in the past 5 or 6 years. I have a new coaching client that demonstrates this, right? If you have been licensed in the past 5 or 6 years, you have experienced possibly the weirdest half decade of real estate sales ever. Because you had, let's say 2019 was a fairly normal year. We had suppressed inventory, so that was hard in its own way. Then you had 2.5 years of pandemic, which was weird lockdown, but also everybody and their brother wanted to buy and sell real estate because rates were outrageously, ridiculously low. And then you've had 2.5 years of correction, which is completely opposite of all of that. Just in those 5 years, you had one kind of sort of maybe normal year.
Correction, maybe not the right word, but you have
normalization.
You have the opposite end of the hyperinflated market that we experienced. Right.
And so I think one of the mistakes, of course, the blowing all their money in the speculative stuff. But there is also a group of agents that are listening who have just been confused about what real estate's supposed to be like because it was fast and furious for so long. We had multiple offers, before midnight for a while. And then things have started to normalize. We have higher rates. Waiting for all of that to shift back towards how you felt during the pandemic is going to make you broke.
Well, yes. And I was wanting to wrap the show up, but you're bringing on a lot of the other people I'm talking to about moving over to eXp Realty were these big teams and brokerages. Mm-hmm. And they built their business around the assumption that the pandemic was the start of a long-term new trend.
Yes, that's right.
And unfortunately, they found out it wasn't true.
Yeah.
But the other thing they found out was it's easy to scale up, add expenses, and add people. Yep. And it is a nightmare to scale down.
Yes.
And because they took too long to scale down, now they burned it at both ends financially.
Common.
And now they're trying to rebuild. And that's the cycle that we're seeing a lot of nowadays.
And that's psychologically difficult.
Sure it is.
It's mentally, physically even. I mean, it's not something anybody plans to do is to scale down. But it's also a good business decision. Once you've come to terms with that, you can, again, the theme of today's podcast, getting control of your momentum, getting control of your success, owning your success, taking action. So.
Look, guys, we'd love for you to be a partner with us at eXp Realty. Obviously, we're welcoming all of you to join us at Premier Coaching. Let's work together at making this the next major chapter in your life, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 100 years, right? If AI kicks in, we have this increase in longevity as all of it, people are now expecting to have happen. Let's make it so this next section of your life is the best section of your life. We are giving you the best version of what we know to be true about what it takes to be successful long-term. Hopefully you're seeing it's not just in your business, but it's also in your personal life. Help us to get the word out. Help us to be in alignment with our highest and truest purpose on this planet, which is being of service to all of you, real estate practitioners. Please do like and subscribe, but also give us a 5-star review and a review on iTunes. We certainly appreciate your continued support. Thank you. Have a fantastic day.